The server chip war is heating up. Intel has lost a ton of market share, AMD is hustling, and NVIDIA is now on top thanks to something called CUDA. And there's a key lesson to be learned from NVIDIA's software strategy. So let's get into it. I'm so old that I remember when Intel made more than half the profits of the entire chip industry. They made more money than every other chip company put together. Well, no more. NVIDIA is the clear winner these days. NVIDIA now has more than twice the revenue of Intel and 23 times the market cap. Look, NVIDIA chips are awesome, but that's not the whole story here. It's not even the important part of the story. I think the important part of the story is that NVIDIA really focused on making life good for developers. They developed this software called CUDA. CUDA, which made it very easy for software developers to write code that took full advantage of all the parallel processing that the NVIDIA chips were good for. AMD also had GPUs, but they didn't have CUDA. It wasn't as easy to write code that just took advantage of all those little processors. GPUs, they have lots of little processors. They can do lots of little things in parallel. That's what GPUs are best for, and it just happens, essentially by coincidence. This is what AI software needs. It needs to check lots and lots of things to see if they're relevant. And then it became circular. The developers were writing code that only worked on NVIDIA processors because it was so much easier. So then their companies had to buy NVIDIA processors. So then NVIDIA had more money to improve the processors and to improve the CUDA code, leading to more developers on their new projects insisting we've got to use CUDA, we've got to use NVIDIA processors, and it became circular with more and more improvements going in until you reach the point that NVIDIA is able to make these things like this H100 GPU. They sell these things for $20,000, and they do things that no other GPU can match, and you program them with the same CUDA that you use for the regular graphics cards. And these things are what are selling like hotcakes to all the companies doing AI in the cloud, right? You buy this one card and it can do vastly more AI stuff faster than anyone else. But before I share what I take out of all this, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Thanks, Alex. I'm Brian from Speedify, and Speedify is an app for all platforms that's designed from the ground up to be the best mobile VPN. So it's secure, and it lets you combine all of your internet connections. Cellular, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, even the cellular connections of devices near you. It's available for phones, computers, and even routers. You can download it from our website, the App Store, or the Play Store. So download it today.
Thanks, Brian. What I take out of the NVIDIA story is the importance of technology companies focusing on developers. Right? I'm not talking about the consumer companies here. I'm talking about if you're selling technology to companies, you need to be focused on the developers. Developers, 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 in the famous words of Steve Ballmer.
Developers, 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 developers.
So, what am I doing with that? We've been selling the Speedify app for years. Been very successful. Now we've turned it into the powered by Speedify SDK, and we're trying to get it into all the devices. There's only so far I can push it, but other developers can, take it, like the awesome guys over at Miri, put it in their router. This thing's got 4G and 5G and Wi-Fi and the ability to run on Sony camera batteries so you can unplug it, go on the road. Awesome device that they were able to put together really quickly because we made it very, very easy to just drop the Powered by Speedify SDK in there. So that's where I'm going with it. Got a lot more companies lined up. I want to get Powered by Speedify SDK in the hands of as many developers as I can to make it as easy as possible. Interested in hearing what you guys are doing. Anyone else have plans to suck other developers into using their technology? I want to hear about it. Also, you should make sure you check out our discussion video about server CPUs, because we get into all the technical details about Intel versus AMD versus ARM and what we're using here at Speedify for our servers.